And we're live! Welcome to Studying the Storm!
Woohoo! Hey guys!
As you can see, there is a new friendly face with us this week. We will introduce him more in depth in just a few minutes, but as you can see, he's FourCourtJester, so while you have a second, go follow him on Twitter right now. Then maybe you'll find out who he is before we even tell you. But we want to give you a brief review of what this show is like. I am Anna Prosser Robinson, and this is
Gillyweed SC2. Hello. Or just Gilly. Or Gillyweed.
Yeah. We're here on Misscliks. If you're not familiar with Misscliks, you should know that Misscliks is this really awesome community initiative to try and uplift and support and provide exposure for female role models in geek and gaming culture. This show is part of that initiative, and this show specifically focuses on Blizzard's game Heroes of the Storm.
Indeed it does. So we'll be going into a little bit more the content. This week's topic is going to be the character classes, which is going to be really cool. We've got FourCourtJester here to explain that to us. And then, as always, there will be a weekly quiz at the end. So be sure you're taking notes because you will have a chance to tweet us questions that you want us to answer. We'll have to answer as many as we can in 10 minutes. And all you have to do to send us a question is tweet with the hashtag STSShow.
Last week we only got like 3 questions. So we can only go up from here. Yeah, we did a half quiz, so we can make our score like a 6.
Yeah, blame it on that.
Yeah,
technical issues.
Although 6 still seems like a lot in 10 minutes to me, but we can do it. This time we'll listen really hard and study really well, and yeah.
We just had excellent questions.
Yeah, exactly. So we want you guys to stay involved. We'll also have a character spotlight where we'll teach you a really cool build that FourCourtJester, our friend Sean here, has brought. We'll do a community spotlight to tell you about some cool things that are going on in the community, and we'll also have a play session at the very end where we will actually be playing some Heroes of the Storm before they take it away from us. And we will just play a game so you guys can see what goes on actually in the game, and we can talk about how the things we learned today apply. So let's introduce you, Sean. Who are you and what do you do?
I've been around for quite a while now, actually, but video gaming with Blizzard stuff ever since I got my hands on Warcraft 1. I've kept right through it, all the way through the StarCrafts, through the World of Warcrafts, through the Diablos, and now here into the Nexus. But because I love the game so much, I'm actually also a lead developer and over at Heroes Fire and part of the Mobile Fire networks. So, you know, if you do anything League of Legends related, you probably know them. And we're bringing the same level of content and quality here over to Heroes of the Storm. It's been a pretty good ride so far. I mean, the technical alpha has been amazing. It's treated me very well. I've hit level 40 multiple times. I've hit Master Skins multiple times. You said they're going to take it away from us next week. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, Anna. I just don't know. But yeah, I've been enjoying my time here, and I just started my casting debut as well this week with HBL. So
yeah, congratulations on that. Was it fun?
It was great to watch the games actually firsthand, to learn some of the quirkier strats without giving it away. There was one game on the Tuesday that was just mind-boggling. Like, it's still really unknown what you can do with this game in terms of backdoor cheese, but well, I think that was definitely our first time seeing it, and I was happy to be there for it. HPL was an amazing time. Got to hang out with Kevin Naki and Xander the Gamer, and they're making inroads into their own Heroes content. So life is looking good right now, I gotta say. I
know, and it's so nice that the alpha is so complete already, that we're able to have this much fun with it already. I'm really excited to see, I mean, what's going to happen in beta and through into the actual game release if the alpha is this polished. I mean, granted, there's a few times I've been stuck on loading screens, but I mean...
And the reconnect feature.
Yeah. Counting up. Yeah. I'm really excited for all the new characters. Every time that there's an announcement, I just get so pumped because we love all of these games, and it's like, no matter which game, I mean, obviously I love StarCraft, but no matter what game, I'm still always so pumped, and I have heard lots of people like, this character needs to be in it, this character has to be in it, and so it's been really fun to see them every time they add it. Just, people get so excited and pumped.
Well, with that in mind, the reason that we've started this show is that in the alpha we know not everybody has access to the alpha, not everybody can play and figure this out for themselves. People are really interested in kind of getting a head start if they do have the alpha and wanting to be able to play really well as soon as more people join us in the Nexus. So the idea of this show is to kind of start really studying the Storm, figuring out the ins and outs, the numbers, the more detailed stuff of Heroes of the Storm, and eventually growing with the game as it turns into a more competitive scene and there are more strategies and, like Sean said, more of those cool, cheesy new builds to talk about. And JC and I are hopefully going to get to the point where we know enough that we can start casting for you as well. So Sean's a great role model for us there because he's already doing that. And today he's going to be talking to us about character classes, because each character in Heroes of the Storm has a specific class which indicates its function and why you would want to use it and what some of its strengths are. And so for people who either aren't familiar with a hero brawler or something like a MOBA or a team game where you would need to pick a character based on their strengths, this is going to be a great show for you. So let's get right into that and let's talk about just, what are hero classes, why do you need to know them, and kind of like what is the purpose of learning them right now?
Well, to put it, easily in terms of other MOBA experiences, if you've ever come from League of Legends or Heroes of New Earth or any of the others, you know that a typical team needs, some guy in the front, big and beefy, can take the damage. You need someone to support him in the back with all the heals, and you need someone to be dishing out the damage. And those same roles have really transitioned nicely here into Heroes of the Storm, and we've even actually put down the labels on top of them. Everybody has actually clearly labeled in terms of their, quote, role. Now, you can kind of bend those a little bit. You might have some warriors that are more assassin-esque and some assassins that are more specialist and, that kind of fun stuff. But essentially, the role system is really meant to help newer players just kind of figure out the game at a glance in terms of what people are going to be doing. So we do have 4 roles here in Heroes of the Storm. And the first ones are basically the warriors, like the big, beefy, tough guys. And those tough guys are basically your front line. And if you're not playing them on the front line, well, you should probably take a quick mental recap of your life and what you're doing with it. But, I mean, that's the big role there. So in terms of like Dota, or they'd be strength. In terms of LoL, I don't even remember the LoL system anymore. But they're typically melee. They have a lot of hit points, some really great scaling, and they take damage. And sometimes they're even going to bring in a little bit of crowd control. There's definitely a big factor in that in terms of the warriors. And in fact, I believe Mr. Kevin Naki, he brought this up. Mirrodin is his favorite because he's an easy warrior to figure out. He jumps in, he gets off some stuns, he soaks a ton of damage. And he's a really good iconic representation of that role. What are the roles that you guys like to play typically?
Well, I mean, see, the thing is that I don't know yet what type of role I like to play because I have specific characters I really like, but they're all over the map. And so what I'm kind of hoping is, if you don't mind, Sean, that JC and I could just kind of ask you about each class, and so we'll get a sense of like what it means to have each of those, what we should use those for, and then some examples of characters that we might be familiar with that fall into those classes. So starting with warriors, like you said, if I'm understanding correctly, those are the ones that because the biggest difficulty for me is understanding the difference between an assassin and a warrior, because basically they're both damage dealers to an extent, if I understand correctly, but the warriors are going to be the more tanky ones and the assassins are going to be the more squishy, big damage ones?
Definitely on the right track. As I said, warriors are bigger and beefier. They have huge hit point scaling, but every class really does contribute to the damage. Even the healers, even the specialists. I mean, everybody here has a chance to do damage. Warriors are definitely not an exception to that. And you can play more damage-oriented warriors, but we're going to keep it clear and simple today. These guys are your tanks. They're your big and your beef. The assassins, as you said, very much squishier than their counterparts, although you do have a few tricks up your sleeves in order to help survive a lot of the time in terms of they'll have utility, they'll have some escape options in terms of just being able to avoid damage or get out of those troubled zones. But assassins bring the pain. I mean, they are literally called assassins, and by definition of the word, they're out for blood. I mean, they're going to go out there, they're going to get those kills. And I know that you've played Kerrigan.
Yeah, Kerrigan's kind of my signature, if you will, just because I mean, and this is kind of silly, but Kerrigan's my favorite video game character of all time, so that was what I instantly jumped into when I started playing Heroes of the Storm. And when you instantly jump into a character and you start getting really good at her, then that's what you want to play.
My question is, okay, so the warriors are all melee, but you can have, is that correct?
Yes.
But you can have either melee or ranged assassins, right?
Correct, again.
Okay, so that was my question is, were there any ranged warriors, which wouldn't really make sense because if you're going to be the tank, you want to be rushing in to the fight, soaking up damage, and then also contributing to like maybe stunning or doing some sort of crowd control aspect. Do the warriors do that?
There's definitely some that will bring some CC to the table. So if we take Arthas, for example, a very iconic figure from the World of Warcraft lore. He's the Lich King. He's the guy that's the big baddie, and he controls the undead, and he controls ice. So ice, right off the bat, he has a lot of ice skills. So, I mean, they really did kind of put a lot of thought into the different skill sets here. And Arthas, he will freeze you. He will throw frost under your feet. You will not move. That is really great for in terms of initializing team fights, as well as trying to chase down squishy assassins that are running away. Because if you can't move, there's you're gonna have a hard time avoiding the next steps, which is typically his sword in your face. But
I hate that.
Yeah.
You will have typically the CCs on the warriors as well as more of the supports. Assassins do have some as well. There's a lot of different choices and a lot of ranges to play with a lot of these different classes. As I said, again, sometimes they could bend their role a little bit more towards another. But ultimately, you should be classifying assassins as those big squishy guys that bring the damage.
Okay. So if I guess, how would you put it? What kind of particular player would like playing a warrior, and what kind would like playing an assassin? Are they going to be the same kind of person, or are certain people going to be drawn more one way or the other? It's
almost like, when you come into things like Dungeons & Dragons, I know you guys run a great show over there, or you run an MMORPG, there's those classifications. And again, the same kind of system does really shine out through here. So I wouldn't say the same person would actually like to play one role over the other. I think they definitely do appeal to a different set of audiences. For example, you said you like Kerrigan, and you went straight for the character, not exactly for the role. But I mean, there's also going to be a lot of that when it comes to this. So if I was, and I am an assassin player myself, I absolutely adore the assassin class. It's my go-to for it. I do not like tanks. I could not really get myself behind a tank. I don't think I have a tank above level 3 in the game. It's just not the style of play that I like. So if you like being in the down and gritty of it, if you like being in those team fights, you like being the guy that's leading the charge, that's making these fights happen, warriors are probably going to be for you. But if you like being off of the sidelines, you like getting those assassinations, somebody's fleeing, you caught him on a skill shot, that's definitely more of an assassin role. And I really do think they appeal to different people.
It's interesting because I think that generally, I would say in the gaming scene, or the competitive gaming scene especially, someone would look down on me for picking a character just because I like that character. But something that I've carried over from StarCraft is, a lot of times people ask pro gamers especially, why did you choose this race over that race? And one belief that I specifically ascribe to is that you really should pick the race that appeals to you the most, because some people will pick based on their play style, and more power to them, but when you really love the race you're playing and you think it's awesome, it's going to motivate you to play more, it's going to keep you more excited, and ultimately when you're trying to get really good at a game, you need that even more than you need something that matches your play style in general. So I've heard that from a lot of pro gamers, I believe it, but then as I've been getting more and more into Heroes of the Storm, and I generally play Kerrigan or assassins or ranged characters just as a habit, like I'm always a ranged character. She's not necessarily ranged, but that's just generally my mentality. But then I started playing Muradin the other day for the first time, who's a tank, very much in the fight, and all of a sudden I'm not dying all the time, and that's my big problem.
It is nice.
I know. I love to dive. I just love diving in game, and I'm always diving the wrong characters, the squishy assassins. So yeah. So I think that what I'm kind of learning is that it's going to be really important for Heroes players, and I mean this applies to all games I suppose, but to balance like, okay, I'm playing a character because I like a character and that's good and motivational for me, but at the same time, if my playstyle is consistently that I'm going to jump into the middle of a fight even when I know I probably shouldn't, maybe I should be something a little more tanky. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Well, I feel like I'm the same way. When the very first time I played it, I picked Nova because I am on the same boat. Like I love the StarCraft characters, and Nova seems so cool with being able to cloak and all these things. But in other MOBAs I've played, in other games, I've always loved playing supports. Something about being able to like be, you know, in the back, but sustaining, keeping people alive, keeping your people there, being able to crowd control the other team. That's all stuff that I like way more than dealing damage. And so I played Nova, but then when I started playing Brightwing, I was like, that's it, I'm done. But I had also known that I already had a love for playing a support type character, so I think that was a big help for me.
Brightwing's definitely your signature.
I love Brightwing.
You're a really good Brightwing as well. I mean, I've had the pleasure of playing with both of you guys. And as you said, I mean, support, it really does appeal to the people that have experience in that role as well. Support being the third of the 4 roles that we've described here. And, you know, staying in the back, getting out the CC, the range, keeping your teammates alive, if that's what really gets you going, I mean, support is going to be all there for you because everybody in the support role brings a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, but then, you know, different ones will actually bring some CC, or they'll just bring monstrous amounts of damage. It's really a versatile class, and as I said, I've seen your Brightwing, and you play it well, and again, that's what really that's what really appeals to you. So maybe not tanks, maybe not assassins, but if you like healing your teammates, support's the way to go.
You know, I always think of supports as being generally what comes to mind first when I think of a support is healing. But what other really important functions should we be looking for in supports? If somebody's like, oh, I don't want to sit back and just heal my teammates all the time, what else about a support is fun to play?
Well, the crowd control aspect definitely comes to mind. Tyrande, Uther, Malfurion, Brightwing even to a little bit of an extent because it has a polymorph. A lot of these support classes not only bring heals and sustain, but they also bring initiation tools or counter initiation tools. So if that Arthas is starting to go ham on you, polymorph him, you now have a few seconds window in order to get, you know, your assassin out of that window of danger. So bringing a lot of that stuff to the table can really bring a very rich mix of heroes to your team comp, because now you have damage, you have your heals, you have your assassins, but now you also have things like the crowd control, the initiation tools. Tyrande is really, really great, especially with Shadowstalk, because she can identify where all the enemy heroes are at any given time with that Shadowstalk. So that is a great tool to bring to your team if you really need to stay on top of where the enemies are.
I played against a Tyrande that was doing that the other day, and it just owned our team because she just constantly knew where we were, and they just smashed us. It was so infuriating. I've never played her, but I should try her.
Yeah, she's the one that I would like to get good with next. Now that I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on Brightwing, she's the one that I'd like to perfect next, I guess.
What's our verdict on how you pronounce her name, by the way? Tyrande.
Tyrande.
That's how I say it. Yeah.
See, that's the thing, is that I feel like we're in a position to make the definitive statement on how the community is going to pronounce it now. So we've decided, guys, it's Tyrande. Tyrande or Tyrande?
Tyrande.
Tyrande. That's
now some people just call her Tyrone. Done with it.
I was saying Tyrande.
I've heard Tyrande. I've heard Tyrande. I don't know, but you've heard it here first, guys. FourCourtJester is the definitive authority on how to pronounce that.
Oh God, I'm gonna get so much.
Okay, so we've talked about assassins, we talked about warriors, we talked about supports. Those are fairly familiar classes to people who have been in this team game type of world. But let's talk about specialists. What are specialists?
Specialists are fun because this is kind of like I want to say it's a new type of class that Blizzard is really bringing to the genre, simply because we have Abathur and Murky classified as specialists, and I'll tell you why about that. But overall, a specialist class is somebody that's not quite an assassin and maybe not quite a support, but somewhere in the mix of just doing a lot of different things well, but not quite maybe what you think. So let's use Murky for an example. Murky is going to be, he's new. His style is new. We've never seen it done in another MOBA or hero brawler or whatever we want to classify this as. But Murky is a pain in the neck. When he was released, absolutely nobody liked him. People loved playing him. They hated playing against him. But Murky in general is an extremely weak little Murloc that literally ETC could play football with. And he just dies. He dies and dies and dies and dies and dies. But he's meant to. He's meant to be the pain in the neck, the mosquito bite that just keeps on fighting. And that is how he is designed. He is designed for that kind of gameplay. And again, like, he is classified as a specialist. He used to be a huge lane pusher, a huge siege damage specialist. Sort of still is. He's gone through a lot of iterations, but he goes forth, he dies, he respawns at an egg 5 seconds later. You get to deal with him again and again and again, and that's what he's doing. He just wears you straight down. And the only way to deal with it is to get the egg, which is typically not an easy thing to do. It's not something we've seen in other kind of MOBAs, and it kind of embodies what specialists are. It's this role where Blizzard's going to try out new things, but overall you're going to be looking at, you know, guys that push damage onto buildings. They kind of do atypical assassin type stuff, or they're Abathur. And those are really the choices.
So it's really the miscellaneous, I guess, where they can just like, oh, we're going to try something completely different. Let's put them in specialist. Is that what you're...
They can play around with it. Like,
yeah.
I think it's just really a label that, yeah, it's miscellaneous. It doesn't quite fit the other things, but it has its own unique style. So, you know, we talk about Murky. Gazlo goes around putting down turrets, kind of like a Heimerdinger.
Yeah.
You don't really play him as an assassin, but he does do damage. But he also excels at jungle control. And then, you know, there's not really anybody else that can kind of do what he does as early as he can do by himself. Everyone else just takes lots and lots of damage. But he, himself, he can pull it off. So it's a category where you can do some fun things with it that might be atypical.
Yeah, I think the specialist class is so compelling, not because I necessarily personally play a lot of specialists. Like, I think I end up usually playing assassin or support so far, but well, I can't say that. Zagara and I have become very good friends lately. She's so annoying in the most awesome way possible. But I just think it's so exciting to have characters that don't fit into those roles that are so expected, because what it forces you to do as a player is become really familiar with all of the heroes and their specific abilities, as opposed to just categorizing them and then responding to them all in kind, if that makes sense. So I think the specialist class is so cool.
The specialist class also has a unique feature of it right now, and that comes down to the level 7 talent of Mercenary Lord. There's only 2 heroes in the game right now that have it, and that's Gazlo and Nazeebo, both specialists. But it's also a unique ability to them that allows them to empower captured mercenaries that fight for you. And trust me, a Merc Lord Nazeebo that just runs around the map and caps all the mercenaries for his team, you are going to be paying for that, like, really, really hard if you can't deal with it. And that is something, again, like, it doesn't quite fit under any of those other roles. But these guys do have it, and they're both specialists, and I think Blizzard is doing some really interesting things with the specialists overall.
Cool. And, you know, we're going to eventually, in future shows, talk about team composition and how you can use these 4 roles to build a team that's really viable and really worthwhile. But for right now, you know, just looking at these characters and thinking about somebody who may be just about to get into this technical alpha as we move into kind of this next phase of the tech alpha, what advice would we give somebody who, you know, is coming in and is going to choose their first few characters to play? You know, what should they really think about in terms of what they want to play and who they're going to choose?
If they've ever played an MMO, find the role that you really excelled at in that MMO. Maybe not even excelled. The one that you really liked. I mean, this is a game. You're playing it for fun. Whatever you like to do in an MMO, for the Holy Trinity, take either the Warrior, the Assassin, the Support to start off, just to start learning the game. And I believe the only one we don't have an easy for that one is, in terms of difficulty classifications, is the Warrior. But you can find a medium-sized Warrior to do, and again, like, you can just jump in with those easy heroes as they're classified. But if you were a tank, take a Warrior. If you loved hewing, take Brightwing or Lily or Methurian, because they're just going to do a lot of healing for you, and you're going to hopefully just really instinctively react to their style, and that will bring out the MMO player in there.
Yeah.
You said there was no easy tank. Who, if they're like a really tank focused, who do you think is a good character that they could, or hero that they could try out?
Well, I'm looking at the easy, all the easy heroes, and Uther does come to mind, and Uther does kind of fill a nice dual role for your team. Because Uther, back in the early days of Alpha, he was the guy who was known to walk away from every team fight. You couldn't kill him. I mean, Uther the Lightbringer, he's a paladin of the highest standard. He's not exactly going to go down easy, and even if when he does, you have a ghost form afterwards, after he dies, to kind of still be annoying to the enemy team. So even if you start dying a lot, like, you can still be useful, and at the same time, you're also bringing a lot of heals to your team and a lot of control up against the enemy, in terms of you got a hammer that can stun, you have another hammer that can stun, and then you got 2 books of healing. I mean, overall, in terms of if you want to jump into one of those 2 roles, Uther would definitely be your man. If you wanted to go straight into a warrior, though, like, you really can't go wrong with Mirrodin or Ethereal. In terms of looking at these other ones, I mean, some of them might be a little strange in order to try to deal with, but yeah, I'd say a Mirrodin or Ethereal would be pretty easy for an intro.
Those never die characters, as we so lovingly call them, are
Never die.
the never die characters are nice. I can't think of a time in recent history where I have easily killed a Tyrael.
Oh, yeah, the Tyraels. In Arthas, every time, I'm just like, oh, there's an Arthas on their team.
I think I need to learn to play Arthas so I won't hate him so much.
Yeah. I just know that at some point in the game, I'm going to get stuck in ice, and I'm going to be really sad.
Yeah.
Every time.
And he's going to stick his sword in your face and summon his ghoul army around you. And you're going to feel very lonely amongst the undead. Yeah.
Well, guys, if you do get into the Tech Alpha and you know, pick a certain character and really like them, be sure to tweet at us, let us know, #STS show. We're learning alongside you, and we want to keep in touch with you and what you're doing. And actually, that's a great transition into our next segment, which is our Hero Spotlight. JC, can you tell us a bit about what the Hero Spotlight is while I set it up?
I sure can. So every week, guys, we feature a different hero that's in Heroes of the Storm. The past 2 shows we've done ourselves, but now that we're having guests, what we would like to do, and what we're doing this week, is we're allowing the guests to pick their favorite hero and bring on a guide like we have this week. We have the definitive Falstad guide, written by our guest, and or just some sort of build that they can bring on and tell us a little bit about the hero. So you've chosen Falstad this week. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the best uses of Falstad, what he's great at within the game?
Well, definitely my style of Falstad has evolved as the alpha has evolved, because they do their tweaks and their changes, and especially some of the map changes really changed the way that you got to play some of these heroes. But Falstad was my first max quest level character. I got his master skin. I absolutely adore the dwarf on the griffin. And as you said, I did write a guide here for Heroes Far for the launch of our guide system, which is out now. And we actually now have featured guides. So if you got a good guide, I mean, hey, we might actually feature it. So get yourselves right in there if you have something to say. But throwing hammers from the sky was, at the time, what I did for the max right-click build, as I called it. Which is literally all I do is throw hammers from the sky. I'm throwing hammers, and I'm throwing more hammers. In terms of the way that this build has evolved, if you want to really get into the high-end competitive of it, you probably don't want to take this one, and that's why I put up the second one. So if you click the arrow, you'll see the second guide, which is the hybrid guide, and then the third one there would be the dwarf mage, because you can embed multiple builds here into the guide systems.
Oh, cool!
So, it looks so slick.
So so all of these fall under the throwing hammers from the sky guide category, and then you made 3 different iterations of the throwing hammers from the sky.
Yep.
Cool.
Sort of easy, mid-level, and then competitive.
It's just more of how you want to play your Falstad.
Okay.
I mean, as I said, like at the high competitive level right now, the dwarf mage or the hybrid are definitely going to serve you extremely well. If you want to go something a bit more split push, something a bit more solo queue, that hopefully you're just not going to get blown up because you're not communicating with your teammates, or you don't know how to play, or any number of reasons. Max right click actually might serve you a little bit better. And that's how I created these 3 different builds. And I go into all the different, various talking points about them in that guide. And again, like, guys can go off and do your own guides here if you don't like mine. I'll definitely take on the competition. But max right click is more of a split push. Because Falstad has a unique mount, which is, in terms of everything, his Griffin, he can actually go from lane to lane on a fairly short cooldown, bypassing everything between them. He basically just picks a point on the map and he flies to it, and you can't really do much about it once he actually gets going. So as a split pushing, side lane pushing, maybe not so much of a team fight, but somebody that's always pushing the lane and getting the experience advantage for his team, definitely that's what I made the max right click build for. And you can actually hover over all the different abilities there, but Seasoned Marksman just got a huge buff in the last patch, but it adds stacks to your auto attack damage, thus max right click. Vampiric Assault heals you for your auto attack damage, which is always great. Auto attacks for the battle momentum will actually reduce your cooldowns for your abilities by half a second, so every time you right click, you're rewarded with shorter cooldowns for your abilities. A big laser, because nobody ever takes the other one. Giant Killer, which will add more damage to your right clicks. And then Stone Skin for the survivability tier at level 16, which Stone Skin, some people might say, whatever, Stone Skin, who cares? But when you have a Nova pop out and she's raring to go with her entire combo, Stone Skin's actually saved my hide more often than not. And that leaves us with the Storm tier talent of Fury of the Storm, which my right clicks now bounce between people.
I love that one.
It's very thematic.
Yeah. I use that one a lot. I'm always interested in the abilities like Stone Skin that are activate abilities, because I find that one of the holes in my play is that if I choose an ability that I have to activate that's outside my normal abilities for that character, a lot of times I forget about it. So, I mean, I guess the question is twofold, which is, if I know that that's a hole in my play, should I avoid those kind of talents and find talents that I know are going to be more useful to me? Or if I should learn to do it, how can I remind myself, do you think?
That's a great question.
You just got to develop the muscle memory, essentially, just like pretty much any other game. Sure, in the first few hundred games, maybe, you'll forget. I mean, I definitely forget sometimes, or I'll try out a new thing, and now my hotkey memory is all messed.
Yeah.
You can get like 5 activatables on Right Wing. You can get 5, I think, on Uther. And if you don't remember which your 1 and your 2 and your 3 and your 4 all hit, and you hit the wrong one at the wrong time, well, you're just looking silly. But it's just all about learning. I mean, if you see something that is super useful, you just got to start training yourself to actively hit it, or maybe even just like forcing your mouse to go click it.
Yeah.
Just to get your brain into the mode of, oh, here's a situation I should use this. It might take a while. It might take a while, but it's just you have to keep forcing yourself to do it.
You mean I have to just practice?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's one of those things, though, that I think maybe once you've gotten used to the idea of having an extra thing there in the first place, then maybe it'll get a little bit easier for future builds or future characters, where you'll know and be able to remember that you've got an extra ability.
Yeah.
It definitely will. Like for the max right click here for Stone Skin, I started using it, and then anytime I ever see my hit points get low, I just mash the 1 until it goes off.
I feel like that is a pretty good motivator. I'm dying.
Yep.
Stop.
Well, that's the purpose of that talent. It's supposed to keep you alive for a little bit longer. But then after I transitioned out of it and I went more towards the hybrid build, it wasn't there anymore. So now I'm hitting a hotkey that not only does it not save me, but it wastes that cooldown anyways, and I look like an idiot when I die. So it just takes practice. That's all it is. Nobody's gonna hate you if you get it wrong.
Nobody will probably even know.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, I missed my Stone Skin.
Oops. Oh well, I'm up in 60 seconds because this is a very fast-paced game, and you're not that punished that hard.
The talent system just is so much fun for me, and I think it's starting to become like I'm learning the talents as individual entities in and of themselves, as opposed to, at first I thought, I thought of them as ways to buff my abilities, but now I'm starting to learn them as things that are more maybe like an item or an upgrade, or those kinds of things that I would be adding to my character. So that's really fun.
Yeah, the talents are basically the items of this game.
Yeah.
That's a really great way to remember it. If you're, let's say you have an activatable from League of Legends, you're really used to it. Well, you get level 16, you get that activatable here. That's now your muscle memory. That's your replacement muscle memory, because now you have to hit it. You have an activatable item. That's the same idea, activatable talent. And I think it really is a good system here, and we have probably a lot left to do with it before they release it, but as it is right now, I think it's a really good system.
Yeah. Well, we are kind of at the end of our hour, and this is quiz time now. So it's 8:01 my time, Pacific time.
Woohoo.
So we're going to go to 8:11 or 8:12. It just turned 8:02. So in the next 10 minutes, if you want to ask us a question and quiz us, remember that your question needs to be reasonable, that we would know the answer. It should probably relate to what we went over today. And you need to tweet it with the hashtag STSshow for us to see it. So what we're going to do is JC and I will try to answer as many questions as we can in 10 minutes. And Sean will either help us or make fun of us or ask us questions himself.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions yet. So
Not
Sean,
yet.
do you want to ask a question? You
It's
can
probably
quiz
not
us.
All right. What really brought you to Kerrigan after you started playing her? Like, you said that you came to her because of Kerrigan, but you're still playing Kerrigan, so clearly you're enjoying it.
This is a good question because it's not something I necessarily had to study, but it's like deep introspection, you know?
Well, we're studying you now. So.
Yeah. I think that what keeps me using her is I really enjoy combos, and two of her moves specifically used together, the Primal Grasp and the thing that I call spikes, but I'm trying to learn the real word for that other thing, the spikes. They work really, really well together, and I love the feeling of just grabbing a bunch of people and spiking them all at the same time. So just
Impaling blade.
Impaling blades.
Oh, I was looking him up.
Impaling blades. 2 demerits for me for not remembering. But yeah, specifically I like comboing her moves together. I like her dialogue pack. Like, I just like that she's like this badass lady character. And I like that she is versatile in that I can build her to be a little bit more tanky, so I won't be quite so squishy, but I can also build her to be just like super damagey, and then that actually will shield me. So it kind of lets me get away with my bad habit of diving as a character I shouldn't dive. As long as I keep doing damage, I'll be shielded for at least a little while, if that makes sense.
All right. So we have a question from last week. Can you tell the difference between a fort and a keep?
A fort is the entire area, including the towers, the gate, the keep, and the well. And the keep itself is just the little mansion-looking house thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Fort is fortification, and the keep is the actual building that's not a tower.
Sean
That's
disagrees.
No? You disagree?
Were we wrong?
From my understanding, the fort is the furthest into the center of your buildings. That line of buildings is your forts, and then the next ones closer to your palaces are keeps, and then you got your cores.
Your line. When you say lines, were you talking about the gates and the towers?
Oh, so he's saying your keep is like the mid lane one,
Yeah.
and the one in
No.
from there.
You got your cores, and then you got a set of buildings, right?
Yes.
Those are your keeps, and then you have into the center of the map, typically, you have another set of buildings, and those are your forts.
That's so confusing because when I looked it up, and I cannot remember where I had found it, it was some obscure thing, and it said something different. So I think a lot of people are confused on that.
Let's go to the map anatomy that we were looking at last time. Just a second. This is me.
Because I thought they called them all keeps. All of the mansions.
See, what are those buildings called? That's a good question too.
Yes,
Forts and keeps.
Forts.
They're all called
keeps. They're keeps.
Okay, so I'm looking at Blackheart's Bay right now. Let me make sure that OBS is also looking. Yes, you are. So I'm zooming in on what we thought was. Oh no, I'm not. Okay.
They don't even have them on this map.
Oh my goodness. Okay, they don't even have me able to click on this map. So This is going to be the ongoing struggle of our lives to find out whether we're calling things the right. I believe Sean to a certain extent because he's already been casting these games.
Yes.
I have a CM backing me up in chat as well, so I think it's sealed deal right there.
Okay, so,
Alright, so
good, we're learning.
Are the outside buildings.
The ones closest to the middle. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and the keeps are the not the core, but the middle ones between of the three.
Wait.
Yep. They're the ones in your actual base. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm showing the map. So we've got right here on Dragonshire, out here nearest to the shrine is a fort. This whole area of buildings. And then right here nearest to our core is the keep. And then this is our core. We still have no idea what this little building is called. A fort or a keep or a little mansion.
That is the keep. I'm assuming that the...
Oh, that is the keep.
It is the keep, and the fort is the actual same building?
I'm all time delayed, so I have no idea.
Oh, there's a difference between the two buildings. I see. Yep. So we were thinking of them as groups, JC, but they're not talking about them as groups.
It's just the building.
It's just the building itself. So those other structures are just defensive structures around the fort and the keep.
All right, so
yeah.
Whatever Reddit thing I found, which is my bad because it's Reddit.
Never trust Reddit.
Reddit.
Dang it. So now we do we get a minus point for last week?
Maybe. No, we'll just keep going.
All right.
It's fine.
What's next? What's next? We have an kind of a esoteric question. I don't really know what that means, but something like that. What came first, the murky or the egg? From Corlane BP on Twitter. Our good friend Corlane. The murky came first. Definitively.
What came first? Murky or the egg? Was that the question?
Yeah. I mean, speaking in Heroes of the Storm, definitely murky comes first. But until he dies. Thanks, Corlane. Thanks for that contribution.
That's brilliant.
Amazing.
From @Fairgrim on Twitter. What are Falstad's 2 heroic spells named?
I know Shock and Awe is one. That's the one that's actually used.
I'm trying to go to heroesfire.com.
That's cheating a little, isn't it?
Well, it's an open book quiz.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Where's Falstad? I need to wear my glasses. There he
somewhere.
is. Okay. His abilities are... Do you know them, JC, before I spoil them from my open book?
No, I only know Shock and Awe because that's like the only one people use.
99% of the chances are you will be taking Shock and Awe.
So Shock and Awe deals 280 plus 31 per level damage to enemies within a long line. And the other is Aerial Blitzkrieg, which is after a 1.5 second delay, deal 150 plus 27 per level damage to all nearby enemies, stunning them for 1.5 seconds.
So why isn't this one used very often? Why Shock and Awe?
Because of that delay. 1.5 seconds in the heat of a team fight is a long time.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you have to get close to the enemy. Hopefully they don't stun you for a second and a half, and then you finally get to stun them for a second and a half and just run away with the tail between your legs, because they're probably going to be very angry with you.
Yeah.
It's just not a very useful talent in most comps, and solo queue, typically people will avoid it unless they're talent gated. And actually, they might have actually now reversed that. Might get Shock and Awe first now. If you have a really good crowd control team, like you have an Uther and a Diablo and all the AoE stuns, sure, you can add another one to it, probably very safely, but 99% of the other times, no, you will not.
You know, it's interesting. Do you think we'll see... Because right now I feel like in a lot of cases there's one heroic ability that is widely accepted as the one you should take and one that nobody uses. Do you think we'll see that vary more in the future?
No, it's only really on a few heroes that problem still persists.
Really?
I mean, Brightwing can easily take either of them depending on the team comp. Malfurion is really known to take Silence. You can definitely get a backdoor Gazlo or a team fight Gazlo. And Diablo, while you might see Apocalypse more often than not, Lightning Breath still comes out strong in solo queue matches.
Okay.
How about from Mr. Lard, what is the difference between each of the character classes?
Take it away.
Okay, so you have the warriors who are higher in the hit points, less in the damage generally, because they're running in and sometimes doing crowd control and soaking up the damage. You have the assassins who are less tanky as far as hit points go, but they generally deal the most damage. You have the supports who they do some damage, but generally they do things that support the team, like healing and shielding and crowd control on the other team. And then you have the specialists, which are the strange ones. They do some damage, but then they also are good at lane pushing, and they're just like the different ones. They do a lot of different things. Yes?
Nice. Yeah.
I'd say that's good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good way to put it.
A+. All right, that's 8:12. That's 10 minutes. That went by really, really fast.
That did go by really fast.
What did we get? Like 4? If we count the Murky and the Egg, maybe 5?
Murky, Fort Keep, that one, and Falstad.
Okay, so 4.
Yes.
That's at
Well,
least
we
4.
improved our score. Go us.
Woohoo!
And you know, a lot of that, we do a lot of discussion, so the whole quiz system is a little bit flawed, but that's because we want to make sure that we're getting the educational value out of our quizzes that we can. So thank you to all of you guys who submitted questions this week. Corlane BP, Fairgrim, Mr. Lard, and Ogre Yonder.
Ooh, and one more really, really fast, sorry. How do you say Tyrande? We finally found the definitive source on that. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, me?
It was good to have a definitive source.
Tyrande. Right?
It's actually Tyrande.
Tyrande. Tuh?
Think of it, Steph told us that it's like T apostrophe and then Rhonda. So
Rhonda.
Tyrande.
Okay.
You just need
Definitive.
to load up Warcraft 3. I mean, that's all we gotta do.
Yep.
All right. Good. We'll call it 4.5 since that was outside the time.
Woo!
Before we go, guys, we want to do 2 community spotlights tonight. We usually do our community spotlight at the very end of the show after our play session, but especially because we have one of their devs here, we really wanted to give a huge shout out to heroesfire.com. We use this every single week on the show, so you're probably really familiar with seeing it, but the reason Heroes Fire has been so instrumental for me as a player is because it helps me to visually see all of the talents I can use to build guides. And what I will usually do is go on heroesfire.com, choose which talents I'm going to do, trying to be cheesy or cheeky or whatever, put that on one of my monitors, and then play my game and reference that to tell me which talents to use. So I'm not sitting there in game getting killed while I'm reading through all of the talents. And, I mean, I'm talking a lot about it, but Sean, I should have you talk about it and how people should use it.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to use, as you said. Put it on another monitor, have a guide up, and we made it really visual. Hopefully, is that you can do things like that, where you can just leave it there, look at the talent, and then you just look over there, look over here, you match icons, and you're done. You could definitely do it that way, but at the same time, we also really encourage theory crafting with the talent calculator. You can easily create forum threads using the talent calculator and just embed BB code that is generated there. So you can trade builds with your friends. You can easily link them as well in the URL, send them to your friends on Skype, on Twitter. It's really meant to be a collaborative, useful set of tools for you guys, for the players. Because, you know, without the players, nobody would be coming to the site, so you've got to have something to do. Right? But talent calculator, the guide system, we also have our Heroes Media system. So anybody that's registered on the site, you can hook up your YouTube, your Twitch, your Facebook, and all that. And anytime you go live streaming on your Twitch, you're actually going to be added to our streamer list as well. You can also submit your YouTube videos, your Twitch highlights, everything as well goes under that Heroes Media tab. And we've actually had some pretty impressive submissions so far.
Very cool. I didn't know about that one. I'm going to have to check that out.
I didn't either, yeah.
We don't promote it much because a lot of people just come for the talent calculator so far, so we've been focusing on that.
Very cool. We'll have to submit something from Studying the Storm. That was a lot of S's.
Have enough S's.
I know, that was really difficult.
Sentence.
Alright, so guys, what's happening now is we're going to take a brief break. We will go offline very, very briefly in the middle.
Wait. You forgot Heroes Premier League. Are we doing that now? Or
no, that's after.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Spoilers.
We can do it now. I mean,
Forget
might as
it.
well.
No! I've ruined everything.
No, that's okay. We'll tell you about something else really, really cool after our play session. So we'll be going offline for just a second so we can set up our 5-stack team, and then we will be back to play a game. We'll try to talk a little bit about what we learned today and its application during the game, and then after that we'll do our one last community spotlight, and then we'll be done for the day. So be right back, guys.